Electrocast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Missing the Point. It's the newly converted to the playoff show, Power Rankings show. The Power Rankings are done. They came, they saw, they ranked. We told you who we thought the 10 best teams were week to week. We had funny themes going throughout the whole year where the number 10 kept cursing teams, which was the last Power Rankings. Were the Chargers 10? Because that might have been, yeah. So there we go. The Power Ranking number 10 curse strikes again. I am DK Sizzle. I am here with Mike Marcangelo, newly minted father Mike Marcangelo, another lost brother in the weak pullout game war that has befallen many a brethren. But he's here despite dealing with, I'm sure, just mountains of baby poop. He's here to talk to us about Wildcard Weekend, and obviously the coaching, hiring, and firing, and obviously my usual cohort, my partner in crime on the Power Ranking show, newly minted as the playoff show, the real BK Bob Kelly. It's three white guys. And we're here to talk about the NFL. Very uncommon feat on the internet. So at least we really cornered this market, fellas. Gentlemen, I'm going to start with the coaches. I'd love to start with congratulating Mike on hiring Mike Vrabel. Your namesake, I think, was the exact right fit for the New England Patriots. I think it made complete sense. It made so much sense, in fact, that I was half worried that you guys weren't going to do it. But you did. And I actually, I'm just going to start off with this prompt, Mike. You got it. You guys have been mad at Robert Kraft all year. I feel like he did exactly what he should have done. The day you guys won that game against the Buffalo Bills was the day we heard that Mayo was gone, and the staff was getting gutted. There's been back and forth about the GM. Looks like he's staying, unless I've missed more current news. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. But essentially, Kraft has done what you would have wanted him to do, right? Very decisive in his decision making, and if I were you, I wouldn't be upset with Mike Vrabel as my head coach, considering his resume and the fit that we've talked about. But maybe you are. I don't know. How do you feel about Mike Vrabel?
Yeah, I'm definitely not upset. I thought I said to Ray when we did the show last week, like I was completely surprised that it didn't take more than 60 minutes after that game for them to fire Mayo. Like that's very un-Robert Kraft like.
Right.
But I think Vrabel coming in, that press conference where he instantly just talked about accountability. It starts with him. If anyone's going to blame anybody, blame him. Like that he wants to get entitlement out of the building. I think that's all great. I think he's going to be a good motivator of men. I'm intrigued by who he could potentially add as his offensive coordinator. I don't want Josh McDaniels for all the reasons why I want everyone that's been associated with the Patriots this last couple of years to get out. But I think, listen, if he could bring in, if Josh is his pick, fine. I want Eric Bieniemy. Like I've said that in our Discord a lot. Give me the guy that mentored Patrick Mahomes and that can't get a head coaching job in the NFL for some weird reason. I just think that'd be a great fit. And Elliott Wolf being the GM still, if Vrabel builds a team around him and they keep Elliott Wolf and he has a good title, but he's not actually making all of the personnel decisions, I'm fine with that. So I think overall, as a Patriot fan, you can't be unhappy with this. This is the type of guy that you need. And now Robert Kraft just has to do the one thing that he's only done once in the last 31 years and just spend money this offseason. And if he does that, based on the fact that we have the fourth easiest schedule based on strength of schedule next year, the Patriots could get themselves into a position where they're 9-8 or even 10-7 again.
Yeah, I mean, I as much as I'm upset personally about Vrabel being off the table, it was a kind of a whirlwind of Vrabel leaves the table and then Mike McCarthy gets fired in Dallas, and then I'm just up staring at the ceiling thinking Mike McCarthy might be the coach of the Bears next season. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I really do think that this is exactly what the team needs. As much as he is definitely a part of the DNA of, obviously, of like a winning Patriots franchise. And like, I think technically you would call him part of like the Bill Belichick coaching tree. I think he's made his own. You wouldn't like,
he never coached coming out of Bill.
I know, but like, just like he came out of that program, you know what I mean? Like, I feel there's enough connection where I think if you wanted to banish the ghosts of et cetera, and the things that you guys have been saying on this show and the other show, there could be some room. I'm not saying I'm making this point, but there could be some room for criticism of like, well, we're hardly like moving in a new direction, hiring like a linebacker for you know what I mean, like that played under Bill Belichick. However, what I would argue against that is he, I think, established his own reputation since then as a coach, right? Completely separate to Bill and really to anything to do with the Patriots. So I do think that he's going to come in with a fresh slate. The big reason why he was my number one choice, and I was vocal about that for Chicago, is a culture change is needed in my team, and like that's why he was pretty consistently my number one choice across pretty much every week since Eberflus was fired. I sort of got on the Ben Johnson train once I realized Vrabel, the candidacy was slipping away. But now I'm kind of switching again because like we've been having so many conversations in the Discord too about like what you want in a head coach and like former head coach, offense coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. I know a lot of you guys wanted Ben Johnson. Would that have been your number one pick? Like on the day you heard it was Vrabel? I mean, I know we're talking about fit here, but that's an exciting guy. That's an exciting brand of offense to bring in. I feel like Bobby, you should be in the sweepstakes for him too. I mean, everybody really should want Ben Johnson on some level, right? Is it a little disappointing?
Yeah, listen, if we could have got Ben Johnson, that hire makes you know that they're serious about building around Drake and taking care of that quarterback for the next five or so years. I think one of the lights of Vrabel for me is that he doesn't just pick the same type of offensive coordinator. Like he did pick Arthur Smith, he did pick Matt LaFleur. So he's open to different ideas. I think if they want to build a scheme around Drake, he's not going to be like, we need to do it this way. He's going to be open to it, but you can't. I mean, Ben Johnson, isn't he like? Is he 30 something? Is he 38, 39, or is he younger than that?
He's in his 30s, yeah.
Yeah, like that's
30s.
he could
sure
be
exactly.
the next type of Kyle Shanahan, like Sean McVay.
Yeah. It's interesting because the big criticism I think I heard when we were in the sweepstakes for Vrabel. I mean, maybe we never really were, but in Chicago, but a lot of people were saying, at least in Bear territory, and it's very similar, I think, situation that you're in because you have a young quarterback you want to see developed. The quarterback numbers under Vrabel in Tennessee were pretty poor. I'm not sure he had a guy. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really trying to steer away. Go ahead, Bobby.
He had Tannehill, so it's not like he had
right.
someone that was
it's just I'm right. I'm trying to steer away from like year one QB commentary though. Like there's just so much like reflexive, like reactionary takes on like who the best QB out of this rookie class is, and I just don't think it's decided yet. Because when you look at the CJ Strouds and the Jordan Loves and even the Justin Herberts of the world, you could argue that like those guys were exciting in their early seasons or early season, and then like you give Jordan Love a fucking contract like you did, and all of a sudden you're sort of shitting yourself, right? So things can change very quickly in the NFL. But you're going into the Vrabel situation thinking, Drake May's our guy. We want a guy that's going to make this dude play well. Does it worry you at all that and I know, like to Bobby's point, fair point, that he had Tannehill down there. It's not as if he was, cooking with the best ingredients. But does it worry you at all that he doesn't have a proven track record of developing young quarterbacks?
I mean, he was never given the opportunity to do it, right?
Right.
So, I mean, every time that he's been a coordinator, whether it was at Ohio State or Houston, like he was on the defensive side of the ball. I will say, like it definitely means something to me that he took Ryan Tannehill from Miami and got him to a guy that was a 4,000 yard passer and 30-ish touchdowns per year for three straight years. Like that has to be system because we knew what Ryan Tannehill was before that, and he wasn't that guy. Right? He got him. Did he win Comeback Player of the Year the same year that Vrabel won?
That seems to ping correct in my head, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah. So I mean, he resurrected that career. I'd be interested to see what he does, and it all comes down to who he picks as his OC, right? Because
he did win Comeback Player of the Year. There should be a Nevermind award for Comeback Player. Like after you win Comeback Player of the Year, there's the Nevermind. We should call it the Robert Kelly Comeback Player of the Year because he anoints quarterbacks so quickly. And the Dave Clarke Nevermind award because I fucking think every quarterback sucks. So Anyway, yeah, I think that's all a fair point. I mean, it's a little sensationalism to sort of turn around and say like, well, he's never, because realistically, if you get a year one Patriots, so let's just like pie in the sky this for a second. If you get a year one Patriots where your defense, that defensive roster comes into the season playing like they look like they should be playing, which is, if we're being honest, they've been underperforming for what we value that defense on paper, right? Like that's been true for probably 2 seasons, right? I think the Mayo full season, you can see that like he's really not getting the most out of them. If you're getting the most out of them and they become, what would be the ceiling? If they become a top 10 defense, right, next year under Vrabel, but your offense moves laterally, like you don't see Drake May fall off, but you don't see him make any progress under Vrabel in year 2. Are you wiping your brow and saying, at least we didn't have a big downturn like the CJ Stroud year? Or are you saying like, that's a worry, we need to bring in a new offensive coordinator, we need to bring in a new QB coach? And additionally, how you feel, but also, how do you think the larger Patriots fan base would react to something like that? Because that would be what I would deem probably the most likely scenario, or really, a best case scenario for year one.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. I'm going to answer it and using a couple of terms that you like to throw at me in Discord with context and nuance. So I'm just saying, like, if it looks like it's a lateral move, but they're a good enough team to capitalize on other teams' mistakes now offensively, I'm okay with it. Like, I think that's a really big thing. If they can, if Drake doesn't throw many more touchdowns, but he throws 3 less interceptions and they win 3 more games, I'm okay with that, right? I think
sacks. If the sacks are improved,
yeah, exactly. If he's not running for his fucking life, every week, too.
Right.
So I think it does.
I mean, that's a spend money situation. That brings us back to your point about Kraft, right? Like, you got to go improve that offensive line. Like, good, so do we. We're in the same market. We're in the market for the same types of players and the same types of coaches. And so far, you guys are ahead. And it's I mean, I think you'd be reasonable. But how do you think the larger Patriots fan base might react to that? Because as you know, like, it's getting a little toxic.
So is their record the same, or does their offense look the same? Their defense is better and they win more games. Because I think that if they win 5 games next year, people are gonna go out of their fucking minds. But if they get to 7 and 10,
I don't think they're winning
5
games next year. I think the Vrabel. I would actually love to see, because I know that Bobby thinks like this. Bobby, 5 games isn't realistic for a Vrabel-led Patriots. Let's say they do spend some money where they need to, and it's not a complete waste of an offseason again. They're going to go spend that insane amount of cap space that they have, and they've been sitting on that. I don't know. Robert Kraft has been sailing around the Mediterranean. I don't know what he's been doing with it, but I'm sure it's been nice. They go spend that. They go get O-linemen in free agency, and they draft decently well. We're not saying anything hyperbolic here. They just have like the offseason they're supposed to have, which it looks like they're gonna, considering that they've been like the most active team so far as like making changes and making moves. What do you think a realistic win total is, Bob?
Probably 8 or 9. I mean, if you look at the quarterback play and the defensive play, if the defensive play is, like you said, even, I don't know, a little bit better than it was this past year, and Drake May stays lateral, it's got to be 8 or 9 with just the coaching. You know what I mean?
I mean, you guys are. We talked about your roster week in, week out, but you guys were bottom of the whole NFL for yards after first contact, right? As a defense. And call me crazy, like call me absolutely insane, but the thing I thought that the Bill Belichick defenses did the absolute best was finish their open field first tackles. It was so crazy how good those Patriots teams were, which, not flashy. You're not thinking back on highlights of, like when I remember my good defenses in the past, although like those memories are starting to turn into black and white photos in my head. When I remember my good defenses of the 2018 one wasn't bad, but when I remember those, it's like ball hawks, Peanut Tillman punching out stuff. When I think back on the Pats, as much as you guys had the Asante Samuels of the world to like go out there and make plays, there was just a lot of like, that guy got him in the 7th round. He's got 6 tackles today. Like there was just like a ton of that. Like we're just finishing, like, do your job, blah, blah, blah. We know, right? That, to me, it's like, banish those ghosts, right? Like if Mike Vrabel can banish those, if the guys on the team are at least just getting the fundamentals correctly, I think you guys are looking at what Bobby said, 8 or 9 wins, right? Like if you can just, because there was so many coaching issues on that Patriots team this year that were, it would be so sporadic week in, week out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be so up and down. It'd be like, this is a new coaching issue that hadn't, like, it's like penalties are the problem this week. Penalties are still the problem next week, but also there's 9 sacks, and, and it's just like stuff like that. You're like, come on, like that's coaching, like that's discipline. Like that's the stuff you see when you're like, oh God, like these guys just aren't drilled properly, right? So, I mean, the floor has to be that for Vrabel, just to come in and say like, you guys are doing fucking suicides if you like miss an overfield tackle. So like, right. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. What do you think? Do you think he gets a minimum 2 years? I know that was a massive complaint.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Because there was a sort of a group, a mob saying it's completely unfair that Mayo didn't get 2 years. A lot of people saying like this is how black coaches are treated in the NFL. To me, I'm quick to call out a race issue in the NFL because it is so racist all the time. But in this situation, I was just like, I don't know, man. I think it seemed pretty obvious that Mayo has to go.
Yeah.
I think it seemed obvious to the world.
He was a defensive specialist, and his defense got progressively worse every single week of the season. Yeah. And the players didn't like him. They stopped listening to him, and everything he said on the podium was then the complete opposite on the next week. So I think when a guy loses such control of his team, and it maybe. I honestly don't think he wanted to be a coach in the NFL anymore.
Yeah, I've heard
it doesn't look like that. It just doesn't look like it. So I think if Kraft next year, again, let's just say they win 7 games, right? That's the lowest of the floor for Vrabel, I think. But he has complete command of the locker room. I mean, you should sign him to another extension right then and there, because that's something you can build off of. Bill won 5 games his first year with us. I'm not saying this is going to be the Bill Belichick, but like you need to give this guy time to breathe.
Yeah. Bobby, you're looking at like you're interested in the Patriots next season. You're trying to figure out like from your perspective how it's going specifically for Mike Vrabel. You're paying attention to things like the post-game pressers, right? Like even if they lose a game, how they lose, and then what he sounds like in the media afterwards, right? Because I was pretty much tuned out of listening to Mayo 5 weeks in, maybe 6. I was like, these pressers are bad. Like I can't, like this guy, I feel like he's saying a different thing every single week. Like the messaging isn't consistent. Bob, you're kind of a rah-rah guy. You're the championship DNA guy, right? Like when you're watching Vrabel change a culture, what are you looking for initially? What are the 5 Dan Campbell signs of a culture change incoming in the opening few weeks of a season, or even in the off season, if you think you can notice something there?
I mean, it's just how they show up week to week. You know what I mean? It's how you play on a consistent basis. If you're holding penalties, just bad penalties at bad times, all the things that Gerard Mayo was doing, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. And then the sounds coming out of the locker room too, right? I mean, I feel like that was an all-time problem for the Bears this year. It was just like, so with some of the shit the players were saying, you're just like, dude, please stop talking. Like, stop fucking saying anything at all. Like, please. It's just, another hallmark of those great Patriots teams was a very notoriously unleaky locker room. Who was it? Oh God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Harrison, when he went from the Steelers to the Patriots. And he was like just talking shit about some of the shit that was going down in Pittsburgh. And it was like, I have always had that criticism of Pittsburgh. It's like, it's so fucking leaky in those locker rooms. And it's just like, you got to get that back, right? You got to get like the messaging is coming from Mike Vrabel, and that's it, right? That's the only kind of noise you want to hear coming out of those camps. Everything's clean, everything's consistent. It just looks like the office is running well. I think that's the stuff we sort of need to see from Vrabel over the next few weeks. But I don't think anyone should panic if the Patriots go quiet. During playoff time, as things sort of start to get in order, you got to think about it. I mean, the guy's got to like bring his framed stuff in from storage. Pop that stuff up on the walls. Start to change the paint color in the carpet. Tell everyone they can smoke cigars inside again. It's I don't know what you do to try to make it like a more football-y environment, but I'm sure he's got some creative ideas that he's going in with, setting the tone. I mean, it's going to be an interesting watch for sure. Definitely over the off season, of course.
What either of you think of my want and desire to have Eric Bieniemy as the OC? Is that too far-fetched, or is that something that you think would work well with Drake?
I'm concerned as to why he doesn't have a job. You know,
Well,
I feel like there's a
he
lot
was
of
UCLA.
in sorry
But
in the NFL. I'm sure I'm confused why he doesn't have an NFL job. I should word things more carefully.
He was let go
I
from UCLA too. It seems like he just has really bad luck with where he goes and the coaches he ends up under ever since he left Kansas City. I don't know what's going
right.
on with him.
I mean, Vrabel might be a perfect like redemption arc for him, considering the kind of guy that he is and the way that he sort of approaches coaching. I didn't know he got fired. I didn't know he got fired from UCLA. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I thought he
Um,
requested to leave so that he could go back to the NFL.
like he's going to just interview for jobs. I mean, if that's the
Yeah.
case, great. I mean, I don't. I think a lot of people would probably be pretty excited if they got Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator
Right.
because they would point
For
to the
sure,
Mahomes
for
thing
sure.
like immediately. So I don't really know why. I don't know what maybe there's just a piece of news I just missed, or there's like something known inside football world. Is he a fucking asshole? I have no idea. I like did he coach up Mahomes and then became like
I mean, it's just
I'm the
odd
guy who coached up Mahomes guy? You know, I don't know.
that he's never even sniffed a head coaching job. You would think
I
that
know.
a guy that mentored Mahomes to the QB that he is now, like, I mean, Josh got freaking 3 jobs out of it. Why can't
Well, I know he went to Washington after and kind of
as
fizzled out
as
after that.
as the OC?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
right. Last year.
I
That
mean,
was last year.
I would take Bieniemy as OC
over
over
Josh,
McDaniels for sure. Over
yeah,
Josh for sure. Yeah. He just has a
I
more
mean,
imaginative
equally,
offense.
he does. I mean, it's the Andy Reid coaching tree, right? I think we're all
Right.
pretty high with Andy Reid. I don't think it's like I don't think that's a secret. I think we were all kind of pumped. Now, before the Kansas City Chiefs sort of became the narrative Lex Luthor of the NFL, I think that there was a little bit of like Andy finally got his ring, you know, and he didn't get it in Philadelphia, and that's a Philadelphia problem, kind of a thing. And I think we all had that attitude, at least as far as I remember. And I think the Andy Reid offensive school of coaching is incredibly impressive. Like I think that guy, you know, we talk about the Shanahans of the world. We talk about the that tree specifically, the McVays, like the guys that have come on. But you know, both Kyle and Mike. I mean, everybody like it that gets talked about in the conversation of inventing new offenses or making great offenses. I love the Andy Reid offense. You know, like I think that's a great and what an innovative style of offense. Like he's always changing and improving and keeping up with the times. And also he's one of those guys that I think can get so much from whatever he has. And I think that if Eric Bieniemy has any of that, you should want him as your offensive coordinator when you're rebuilding. You know what I mean? Because then you what he at least does at the very minimum, I'm sure he can do this. He can come in and tell you who on your offense at least is working and not working and like why. Right? Like you know, like what mistakes you've made along the way and like what real improvements you have to make, because it's easy for us to look at the Patriots and be like, get sacked less. You know what I mean? But like if you're in training camp, you're going to have to be looking at the right guard's footwork and be like, "Oh, I see what the issue is." You know what I mean? Like we need a guy that can do that kind of stuff. And I think if he's anything like Andy Reid, if there's any sort of Andy Reid angel dust on him, I'd want him. I will say though, like when your offensive coordinator doesn't work out in a new like run in what feels like a fresh start, it sucks. Like it sucks so bad because the NFL is so offense heavy now. Like I just feel like every year we get more and more import, more and more reliance on the offense happens. I feel like I really think it does. Like the defense building a massive defensive team, building a defensive team to win you something. As much as like all the champions still have top 10 defenses, right? Like that stupid commercial, but like it's still like have the 10th best defense then and make sure your offense works. So don't get it wrong, I would say, but like I don't know, I can't find a flaw in your proposal, I guess is my answer.
Love that.
Well, that's there you have it on the Vrabel situation, and like I'm
on the
loath.
opposite end of the spectrum is my coaching search.
I was gonna
Like
say I'm loath.
literally
I'm loath to.
the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Patriots have their person picked out, you know, ready. First one off the board. The Cowboys literally hold Mike McCarthy hostage for some unknown reason, for an extra week.
Yeah, I think they were still trying to work out the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
In good faith, no?
Yeah, maybe. and then fall behind in the coaching search too. So it's just like every offseason where they're already starting from a leg behind. I can't with this team anymore. I really can't. They want to drive me even more insane than I already am.
I'm struggling to find ways to describe why I don't like Mike McCarthy with facts. And it's difficult because there was just like a contingent of people on
His
the
offense
internet
is
that
his offense is just so behind in time. So that's my problem with him. I know he can win, but
you don't think Dak went up a level under him or
100%.
half a level?
He did for sure. But you have to remember his rookie year, he was 13-3. So it's like Dak already did have a high level before Mike McCarthy got here. I don't know.
But wasn't that
I'm
like
not
Des Bryant? Got a Zeke in his prime, best offensive line that the NFL's ever seen in the last 15 years.
Yeah,
and Jason
yeah.
Witten.
I mean, yeah, it was. But
Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure.
I don't know. Mike McCarthy, like I said, his offense is just it doesn't do it for me anymore. He thinks he's Andy Reid and he thinks he's his offensive guru, but he's just not. He's a regular season coach, and we all know how well we treat those in our Discord.
He's a regular season coach.
Well, unless you're Mike
that happens to have a Super Bowl ring, though. I mean, but he does have a ring, though. I mean, he has a ring.
It's true,
and he did. If you take the Mike Marcangelo school of logic, and you just say like, just look at the numbers. We just have to look at this in a purely scientific and data driven way. There's a way to talk yourself into it, Mike McCarthy, no? Because like he took a Dallas Cowboys team. He was hired in January of 2020. You guys were coming off a 6-10 season. No, sorry, you were coming off an 8-8 season. An 8-8 season
under
you lamented
Jason Garrett
because
again. Right.
under Garrett again, and an 8-8 season you lamented because he three-peated 8-8 seasons back in the early 2010s, right? And then McCarthy comes in. He has one kind of rebuilding year, right, where he goes 6-10, and then he rattles off 3-12-5 seasons. And this season, I think we can give him a little bit of a mulligan because Dak got hurt, right? So, like, let's just not put that in the for or against column because his quarterback went down. So, like, we have to put an asterisk on that. But if you take the 3 seasons of 12 wins, admittedly, they did exactly what the Packers did in the playoffs most of the time under McCarthy, and in the regular season, which was win a bunch of fucking good games, like have good quarterback play, not Aaron Rodgers level, but Dak went up a level. He was improved. He was developed, and I think McCarthy does have a track record for that. And then you look at it, and it's like, is it a Cowboys problem? Like I don't know, because it's like who are you gonna bring in now at this point? Because the things you're looking at, it's like Deion Sanders. Okay, great. I mean, I love it because it's gonna be hilarious. But like,
that's honestly, fuck it. Deion Sanders, I'll take it. Because right. You know what I mean? At this point, dude, it's just such a shit show in Dallas at this point that I'm just down to make it as big of a shit show as possible. So fuck it. Bring Deion Sanders in.
Good for you.
Yeah, bring Deion Sanders in. Let's spice up my life. Let's spice up the life of the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL. You know what I mean? It would make for such good content, and it would make for such good times in the NFL if Deion Sanders was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
But he's only going to go coach the NFL to coach his son. So then Jerry has to figure out how to get Shador as the quarterback.
How do you know that? How do you know that that's true?
Deion said it. Like he said he literally said it in an interview last week.
But then the Dallas Cowboys came
such
and
a circus, dude.
Yeah, and the Cowboys came and knocking. So who knows?
I mean, Troy Aikman said that job's going to suck. I mean.
As soon as when he started saying that, I was like, "This is going to be a big deal. They're going to make a big deal out of this one." Troy Aikman's just shitting all over the Cowboys on national television.
I mean, Troy's tired, man. I think you are too. I was just talking to Leah about what makes a good like commentary duo, and I think that we were going through a real transitionary period over the last couple of years. Like none of us were happy about Al Michaels getting shipped off to Prime on like Thursday nights. Like everybody was mad about that. But Buck and Aikman have really like got Buckman, the Buckman team. They really have the chemistry down because like as long as you just have like you just need like 2% sexual tension between the two male commentators. You know, just like 2 to 3%, where it's like, will they, won't they? Just a little. Where you don't think so, but like if you were told it happened, you wouldn't be like super surprised, like British boarding school style, you know. And I'm just like, and they just bounce off each other really well. Like I like Troy Aikman as a commentator. I'm really coming around to those guys. But yeah, I mean that's going to be news. But the Dallas Cowboys consistently put themselves in this position, don't they? Like they consistently put themselves in the headlines, and the headlines, even if they're not overtly negative, they're lacking of substance. You know, like the things that Jerry Jones is saying is lacking in definitive substance because he's doing a lot of fucking talking. You know, like Jerry Jones won't get out of Jerry Jones's way. He won't shut the fuck up. You know, he's on radio shows threatening jobs, giving you insight into what this guy is like to work with. You know, like he's just out going around threatening livelihoods like everywhere he goes, and like screaming at little black children, preventing them from getting into school. I just don't think the Cowboys had a Mike McCarthy problem, I guess is my whole point. I think they might have, but I think that you can't see that for sure unless you address the very massive Jerry Jones problem. I think that that's obvious. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow because I'm in the same boat, Bob. Like I'm in the same exact boat. Like we have a McCaskey issue. And this, I'm on record with you guys about this impassionedly. We have a McCaskey issue. You guys have a Jones issue. Your issue is with the Welsh. And I just don't. I want to know what you see. Yes, great. I love your positivity and your attitude about like what that circus would be like. And you know what? Maybe there's the outside chance it works because at least they did something different, did something crazy. It's you know, doing something different, doing something crazy, being Mavericks. You know, I've seen Top Gun and Top Gun 2. So it's just, you know, sometimes it works out if you play a little dangerous, but realistically, do you not see that like the biggest obstacle to the future success of the Dallas Cowboys is the man who holds them in his pocket?
Of course, he's the issue. He's the number one issue.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
Right? There's literally not a goddamn thing you can do about it until he dies. That's the only thing that can happen. If Jerry Jones dies of old age. But
can we prove that he's alive still? Have you seen him?
No.
Can we definitively have a doctor say that he's definitely alive? Like he might be just getting weekend at Bernie's, like around the campus in Dallas at this point by his nephews. I don't know. Mike, what do you think? If you're a Cowboys fan, try to put yourself in Bobby's shoes. Yeah, you know, you were adamantly defending Mike McCarthy for very good reason. You know, just when you look at the data,
I couldn't believe that you were coming to his defense either. I couldn't believe it.
Well, first of all, I turned DK into a Mike McCarthy fan because of how hard I was railing against Mike Tomlin. So that's what happened.
Can I just say, how I feel about him is still definitively he would not be my first choice for Chicago. I mean, I think that's what I was trying to say is like there's a lot of reasons, and I did say at the top of our fun back and forth the other morning, that, you know, the Packers issue is sort of a thing I can't really get around, you know, and I admit that like I'm gonna look at Mike McCarthy through a Packers lens, right? If I move that lens to a different place, I can look at it like it's a little bit of a middle finger to the Packers if he comes here and succeeds, and because this is what you do, you start talking yourself into this shit, because what happens is I get scared that the Bears, knowing them, are gonna do the worst thing. Right? Like they're going to do the dumbest thing. Like they're going to go hire the Dolphins defensive coordinator, you know, because like he's on the interview list. So I'm like, did anyone look at the Dolphins this year and go like, man, who's that DC? He's doing new and crazy and exciting things. Like, no. So, you know, if we make another Eberflus signing, that's worse objectively than if we hire a competent head coach in Mike McCarthy, a guy who will go and get us a lot of regular season wins, a feeling I haven't experienced in many years. So I have to be reasonable, right? But that doesn't make him my number one choice. And if you ask me, and honestly, to pick between Tomlin and McCarthy, as you proved, Mike, the data is essentially the same, right? Like the data is like they're sort of like neck and neck. So I'd have to go on the eye test and the likability test.
Well, McCarthy has more playoff wins
by one. So I mean, you know, the wind goes in a different direction one time.
Wait,
and it's like
whatever.
I
thought Tomlin's 8-10. Yeah, McCarthy's 11-11.
I thought it was 8 and 10. I thought it was 8 and 10. I thought it was 8. Either way,
8 wins,
3.
10 losses.
That's good. You mean overall? I think the data I was looking at was over the last X amount, because that's what everyone keeps talking about with McCarthy, because he's got 0. So I think in a lot of the last few years, it's probably the last 7 or something, McCarthy has 1 and Tomlin
we
has
got
none.
one. We got one. Yeah, we got one over Tampa.
Yeah, you guys got one. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, fair fucks to you on that point. But I still think we're kind of we're in a what have you done for me lately situation. And if you're going to bring up that the issue with Tomlin is the recency of his losses, then you have to sort of look at the data set like that. And I think if you really asked me, and I think if you asked you, like, would you actually pick McCarthy? If you were me, if you were a Bears fan, would you pick McCarthy over Tomlin?
If I was you, a Bears fan, no. But you asked me, like, what should I do? Like,
because of fit too, though, right?
If I was a Cowboys fan, what I would do. This is I'd be a surprise for you. I would do whatever I could as Jerry Jones to trade for Mike Tomlin to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Like, that's what you should do.
Do you think
this
that's
isn't
a
an
fit?
indictment on?
Do you think that's a fit?
Yeah,
that doesn't work in my head.
So in my opinion, like, I think I'm getting. We're catching a lot of heat here for Tomlin. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's just like Andy Reid in Philly. He needs to change his scenery.
He definitely needs to change his scenery. I do. He could have a run.
He could have a run in him. But like, I think you need a guy like Tomlin who will suck up all the oxygen in the room, and he'll make Jerry Jones irrelevant for interviews. That might piss Jerry off, but like, that it's going, like, to your point.
That's my issue, is the fit between those two guys. Like, I don't know if that works.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it either.
I'm trying to picture it in my head.
You should want it, but otherwise, like,
you absolutely should want it. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you should want Mike Tomlin if that's an option.
Go get Joe Brady. Go get the OC from Buffalo. Make him your head coach.
It's probably the route that they're going to go. They're going to go a route of some guy that's going to bend over to Jerry, and not want.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the clout. He's going to have to. If you hire an OC, that's what's going to happen, right? Like, there's going to be some friction. What if you hire a guy? I mean, a Vrabel, like, again, like the guy the Patriots went and got. Like, I think that would have been a great hire in Dallas. But like also, so would have Bill Belichick circa 12 months ago. Yeah, I know. I mean, dude, I was really sure. I don't know why, but I just had it in my head that he was going to go get Bill last offseason. I really thought it. And then I was really sure he was just going to stay on with McCarthy, because I didn't think he was going to do that last year. You know, I think I like just the way that everything looked, I thought that they were going to move on, and then they didn't. So like, Jerry's just a little behind.
Total Cowboys fashion to deny the Bears the opportunity to talk to Mike McCarthy, and then let him go 4 days later. Like, what an asshole. What an absolute asshole he is.
Yeah, that is probably some asshole. Maybe they were trying to get the deal done.
But he would be your best head coach since Lovie Smith, Dave. Like, in all seriousness, he would.
But that's the problem. I mean, I think I'm operating from a completely different place from the two of you guys, because, Patriots success, obvious, like the levels that you've seen Bill Belichick take your team is probably never going to be seen again in our lifetimes. The Cowboys, I mean, they're a successful team. Like, they're the most popular franchise. They're the most followed, most fan supported team in the NFL. They're America's team. They win a lot of games. Like, they always have really good players. They have the best stadium. They have the best facilities. They have you want to go play in Dallas. You want to go be a Dallas Cowboy. There's something about it, right? There's something real 1970s fucking, piss and vinegar and fucking chewing tobacco about being a Dallas Cowboy, right? They've had all-time greats. Like, this is a thing. And I'm not saying the Bears don't have a history, but you guys, the Cowboys just rattle off 3 12-5 seasons. And where their fan base is we need to see a guy come in and win in the playoffs. If somebody came in at my team and rattled off 3 12-5 seasons, as and developed Caleb Williams, I'm fucking over the moon. And we go out in the first or second round of the playoffs in each of those 3 years, I'm fine. I'm having a great time across those 12 wins. I'm riding that fucking pony all the way home. So, it's about sort of where your level is at. Like, what I need is triage. Like, my soul needs to be sutured with a fucking medical kit. I need somebody to make sure I don't bleed out and die on the floor as a Bears fan. You guys are looking to remodel your kitchens. Like, this is a different. We're sort of in a different phase.
A guy that's been proven to groom and mold a quarterback and elevate them.
Groom's an interesting word, but sure.
McCarthy did that with Aaron Rodgers. He elevated Dak Prescott, so why not?
Yep. Well, my lean, honestly, is that I think Caleb Williams is good enough to develop at sort of regardless, because I just watched him play a bunch of really good games, put together a pretty decent rookie season statistically, despite the absolute fucking clown car that was the Chicago Bears, despite the rotating, revolving door of coaches, the aw shucks Matt Eberflus all the way to promote Thomas Brown all the way to general on the front lines in Stalingrad because Hitler keeps shooting all the generals, then here we are, right? And he's still leading game-winning drives. He still threw 20 touchdown passes. He still had the same basic stat line as CJ Stroud, except Caleb had 7 less interceptions or something along those lines. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but, CJ Stroud, everybody's fucking, he had his dick in everybody's mouth coming into this season. And it's like, I know he didn't perform quite as well. His guys went down, whatever, but pretty good rookie season from Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is going to be fine. That's my honest to goodness assessment of it. I need the building around him to not be on fire. I need everything. I don't want him to be that fucking Donald Glover meme that Craig loves, where he walks in with pizza and everything's just already on fire and there's a dead body on the ground. That's what Caleb Williams walked into. People were criticizing him in the offseason where it came out, maybe leaked from his camp. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. He didn't want Chicago. He's making rumblings. We might have an Eli Manning situation. Can you fucking blame him at this point? He was right if that was the case, right? So I need a guy to come in. And to me, in my head, and I think you'll agree with this, because I think you kind of already did by saying, Tomlin, if you're a Bears guy, to me, it's I need a guy to come fix everything. And I think that one thing that's not broken is the one thing I'm not going to worry about, if that makes sense, right? I don't think Tomlin will break him. So there's that at least. I think there's guys that we could potentially hire. There's a potential for what's the Dolphins DC that can't get a head coaching job now. He's suing the NFL. Flores. I don't want Flores anywhere near
Vikings.
him. I don't want him to go anywhere. Or Vikings, yeah, sorry. I was thinking Dolphins head coach and then Vikings DC, but
right.
I don't want him anywhere near Caleb Williams. I'm worried about guys that we might hire that will come in and break my fucking favorite thing in the world right now. So that's why I'm leaning Tomlin. Genuinely, that's the reason, because I think his culture and the stuff that he would bring in and the way that everybody would be playing and the way that we would play in the regular season, I think he would be the dude. McCarthy, I think he could develop the offense. I think he could develop Caleb, but I think there's also a lot to do in Chicago, more than he's been asked to do in an organization before. If we're talking about track record, I know probably a lot more than Tomlin's been asked to do also, but at least that guy's coming from a place that is just, the pillars are in the ground, right? The way the Steelers run their organization is good. That he knows all the right habits. Mike McCarthy's just coming from a dysfunctional situation. I don't want him walking into another dysfunctional situation. You know what I mean? It didn't work out that, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's the best explanation I can really come up with why I would lean Tomlin. And yes, I have a bias towards the Steelers and the two teams that Mike McCarthy has coached in the last decade. One of them I hate with a burning, oily passion. So yeah, that factors in for sure. And then thankfully I'm not the one making the decisions. This is why you don't let the family decide the verdict. It's because I don't believe in the death penalty, but I'm sure I'd love somebody who hurt someone I love to die. That's why I'm not in the room. I'm too emotional about it. But the best objective assessment I can give you on that is that you guys want to move on to the wild card. We've chatted Pats, we've chatted Bears, we've chatted Cowboys. It's been a good time. We did a friendly version of the coaching debate, and then we have one left to do because there's a quarterback conversation to be had. So that's definitely at least on the docket for the night's events. But I think we should go through the wildcard games in order. Actually, yeah, if we go through them in order, it is on the docket. The Chargers played the Texans. Justin Herbert shit the bed. The Texans looked really good. CJ Stroud looked really good. Their defense looked really good. We were all really high on the Texans at the start of the season. I was really high on the Chargers for the entirety of the season. I was really high on the Harbaugh hire because I wanted him in Chicago. I was really high on their performances. I was really high on Herbert. Absolute murdered my take in week one of the wild card round. My take was just taken out in public, in a public square, flogged, and then shot like it was Mussolini's Italy. And I can't defend it really, because I still do believe that Herbert is a good quarterback. I still see with my eyes when he plays well what it looks like, and it's a lot of fun. And I really like the kind of quarterback that he is. But man, I mean, he threw 4 picks. He threw a touchdown, but he threw 4 picks.
Three of those
And
were his fault.
I was
One of
looking
them,
back
one of
on it
them was
because I know
so badly not his fault.
one of them was
Yeah,
an
yeah.
absolutely egregious one. One of them was not his fault at all.
Yes, that's why I said three of
And
them
I'd
were.
say the other, and I'd say the other two, they sort of have to be blamed on him because like he didn't make the reads. So like it is what it is. He threw 4 picks. It was bad. It was a bad performance. It was a bad performance from the team. And honestly, you can tell why the Rams are LA's team because they stepped up for our on fire city and the Chargers just didn't. Mike, I mean, feel free. This is absolutely your victory lap on Herbert moment. So feel free to shit on him as much as you like. And I'll try my absolute best to argue back.
Well, I just said he's not the guy because we've seen him twice in the playoffs now, right? The first time was when they were up 30-7 against the Jaguars 2 years ago, and they lost that game 31-30. So like you are the quarterback of a team that let up a 24-point comeback against Trevor Lawrence and Doug fucking Peterson.
But he's not on the defense, right? So
sure, but he stopped putting up points.
I know you got to control the game. I get it, but
sure.
You know, it's saying like he's not completely.
Jaguars,
we tend to lay a lot of quarterbacks, but
yes,
I mean he can't intercept the ball.
But just remember, whatever you're going to use to defend him in this chat, remember when we talk about Jordan Love. Just remember that, okay? So
yes, absolutely.
Like the Jaguars weren't rolling out Warren Sapp, Ed Reed, and Ty Law. Okay, so he did not move the ball, but then this game, it just felt like pretty instantly it got out of control, and he just never was able to find the pace. Now that's not all his fault. His offensive line, which had looked really good all year, looked absolutely fucking terrible, and it looked like he only had one weapon, who still went off. I mean, McConkey is a problem. I'm so glad that we picked.
He's great.
Jalen Polk over at Lad McConkey. What a great selection by Elliot fucking Wolf. But like,
it's funny too because Lad McConkey's such a Patriots pickup. Like historically, like he's such a little white guy and like a wide receiver.
Wes Welker-esque for sure.
Yeah, it's so strange.
I just want to let you know, like his Justin Herbert's stats in the playoffs. He's 0-2, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks, 250 yards per game. Like those are his stats. That does not scream, the guy. Until I'm proving
if it weren't for that long touchdown too, his numbers would have been so abysmal in this past game because there was the long.
Okay, all right, but he threw the pass.
If it wasn't for those 4, if it wasn't for those 4 picks, his numbers would be great too.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, like he threw the fucking touchdown pass. It didn't come down from the sky. I can't accept that.
It's double coverage.
I will just say, if we do, it's hard because I have to fulcrum him against Jordan Love. So I don't want to jump ahead, but I will just say that I think Herbert's been in much, much more dysfunctional situations for much longer than Jordan Love has been. Maybe yes, simply by the merit of him playing for 2 more years, right? 2 more seasons he's got, I think. So yeah, maybe just by that merit, but things were going so wrong. Like I was sort of just making the point about Caleb Williams. Like things are going so wrong around Herbert. Like when you apply the context to the data, you can see like everybody agreed last year he had the worst fucking coach in the NFL coaching him, right? So to me, as much as Herbert had a bad game and he's now had 2 bad playoff games, I don't think I would call Jordan Love necessarily a fraud, but I do think that it's starting to look suspicious. And I think if you look at Herbert, yeah, it's starting to look suspicious. But one guy's had the same coach, building up the same offense with a bunch of guys around his age, really young team as they start to go, and they were in the playoffs last year, right? They had that whole system set up, and they were in the playoffs last year, and they won a game in the playoffs last year. They regressed. If you look at the Chargers, the Herbert-led Chargers, they're on fucking schedule. Right? Like they're perfectly on schedule. So they went out in the first round of the playoffs.
Led Chargers, not the Herbert-led Chargers. Because we've seen what
Herbert in relation to no, I know, but in relation to the Love led, in relation to the Love QB room and his team, you have to look at the circumstances both quarterbacks are in, right? New coach this year, first time, you have to give them a little bit of a reset, right? So yeah, in this era, it's bad. It's hard to defend that performance. You have to, again, apply context. If you look at the team around Herbert, I mean, I don't know why you're laughing. You do. You have to apply context to these things. If you look at the actual games,
context and nuance to the people that you defend and never the ones that you shit on.
I'm doing it to both of them. I'm literally doing it to both of them. I'm applying it to Jordan Love. Jordan Love's defense was playing fucking great in that game. They were putting the offense in a position to win that game. And the only thing that lost the Packers that game was bad quarterback play. Like the only guy that didn't show up for the Packers for the whole 3 quarters that were the Eagles just could not get out of their own way and they couldn't get off the ground offensively. The Packers defense was showing up and everybody was looking at Jordan Love going, homie, can you just like play good? Like you're getting like $200 million. Can you just fucking play good? Herbert, yes, played shit, but the whole fucking team played shit. Okay. It wasn't as if the defense was over there giving them a great chance to win and there was just quarterback play to be applied. So yes, you apply context to both situations and the context doesn't favor Jordan Love in those games if you look at both of those games. So I can't defend the individual game. I can't.
That his top 2 wide receivers were taken out of the game with injury. And I would say, like, if Vlad McConkey was taking out
Herbert's top 2 weapons were sold to other teams in the offseason. So, like, if you look at everything that they put around Jordan Love as far as skill players go,
that's not the same as having them all.
But we both know that he has to go get skill players, right? Like that's going to be the next step in the progression of the Chargers. Like he has to go get skill players. So, and like that's not what they're saying about the Packers. They're saying I think they have all the ingredients. They just need to get a little bit more experienced. So, you know. I think if you look at it, we're not going to come to a conclusion of like one is better than the other right now. That's not like really the answers that we're seeking. In a who would you rather have? I'm just going off watching both guys play, and I just think I'd rather have Herbert, especially if you base it on this regular season.
If Jordan Love was the exact same stats, let's just say he played for the Rams.
It's hard to compare the regular seasons because of injury, but.
Well, I mean, their first 2 years, Jordan Love is 18-15 and 1-2 in the playoffs. Herbert's first 2 years, he's 15-17, 0-2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about their numbers though. I'm talking about like their touchdown and interception numbers. So if you look at the regular season, it's hard to compare. Really hard to compare. So, you know, like it's difficult to like look at those. That's all I'm saying. So it's like hard to factor that in case somebody was screaming at their radio being like, well, you know, but no, Herbert so if we call that
9,300 passing yards, 69 touchdowns. I mean, that's
it's just because he's played. Oh, he's also played for 2 years, 2 extra seasons. You know what I mean? So it's like there is a larger data set, which I concede to you because you're looking at a situation where he's had more time. I mean, they're both the same age, but he has had more time to really like lead a team and like wins and like not been able to do it. But I would probably counter that with the idea that like the coaching staff, I mean, it's been
before we let Bobby speak for the first time in like 20 minutes. Sorry, Bobby. I will just say that the head coaching situation that Herbert had to deal with his first 2 years or 3 years, I don't think it's as bad as having to go to work and be told that you're a piece of shit by Aaron Rodgers for your first 3 years as a quarterback in the NFL. I think that's both toxic. So I think I
mean, I'd have to agree with that because if Aaron Rodgers ever into my face told me I was a piece of shit, I'd be serving a life sentence for murder. So it was like I have no I couldn't possibly argue with that. I'd be looking for a reason. So it is what it is. Guy went down a YouTube rabbit hole and he thinks he's smarter than doctors. It's fucking worst guy ever. But it's fine. Look, here's the thing. Sometimes when I watch Jordan Love play quarterback, I get a feeling, not hope that he sucks, relief that he sucks. And I'm just a little consoled by that feeling because I'm like, oh, thank God it's not a third guy in a row at that level. I'm not saying he's going to be bad necessarily. I'm saying that I think in a year, my prediction is that they're going to be real mad about his contract. I think that the Packers fan base is going to be pretty upset about how much money he's on. I think we're going to be in a Dak Prescott situation. And I think,
who would you take, Jordan Love or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott.
I would take Caleb Williams, but I would definitely take I would take Dak Prescott. I would take Dak Prescott. I wouldn't be happy about it, but in this very narrow situation that you've given me, it's like, do you choose the blindfold and the cigarette or just the cigarette? Like, I don't know. Just from my personal opinion. Now, have I seen Jordan Love play well? Yeah. I mean, Caleb Williams is undefeated at Lambeau Field in 2025, baby. Jordan Love 0-2 in 2025. One from the Bears, one from the Eagles. Caleb Williams 1-0 in 2025. New era has arrived. But yes, I'm sorry, Bobby. We should include you after biting each other's throats out for 10 minutes.
Jordan Love's lows are much lower than Herbert's lows, in my opinion. That's and they're more consistently low. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
You just saw a game that argues that point, but go ahead. 4
Well,
picks.
no, I'm just so. I mean, that was
But Love sucked too.
yeah, but that
I
was
mean,
more
they
interceptions
sucked.
than he
They
had
both
all
sucked.
season. That was more
Yeah,
interceptions
it's
than he
true.
had all season.
Yeah,
I
he had
just
3
feel
all
like Love
season. I
gets
mean,
a
that's
lot
pretty
of
good.
Love gets a lot of credit for that one game that he had against the Cowboys last year, and he's been riding that ever since.
Yeah.
That game,
I mean,
by
he
the
got
way,
a big contract because of that game.
after that game, both of you on this very show, Dave said, it makes me fucking sick that they might have their third straight quarterback. Bobby said, Jordan Love is the real fucking deal. And now, a year later, it's, I think I was right about Jordan. He's not going to be that good. He sucks. He's a fraud.
Well, I'm glad I used the word might then, if you're quoting me verbatim, because I mean, you don't want to say things like definitely around here.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I still am undecided. I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure that he's the guy that showed up in this game. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% sure he's not though. And I think I'm leaning not. And I think you could probably account for 10% of my lean with how much I'm hoping, but I think I'm leaning 20%. So we'll have to see. But you're saying you'd take Herbert over, or you'd take Love over Herbert 10 times out of 10 twice on Sunday.
Yes.
For the New England Patriots, you're about to build a team up, and
Yep.
and the guy that you want is Jordan Love.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
That's also because I've seen Justin Herbert play in Gillette, and aside from this year, it's been terrible. Always terrible. I don't.
He really did look great under Harbaugh in the regular season this year. Like he looked like he could be like a top 5 guy. I feel like. I don't know. It was really disappointing. I was really disappointed with their performance overall. I really was high on them, but thankfully it was my one major take that died this weekend. Everything else came home to roost. So I'm really glad to get this one out of the way early. I'm really excited to talk about the Vikings. But you know, again, it's hard, right? It's hard to have these arguments because we don't really know. Like that, we have to, because what could be true is both of them suck. Like that actually could be true because every year we're told the same thing. This was the narrative of either last year or the year before, I can't remember, where me and Bobby were just hoping against hope that the Chiefs and Mahomes weren't going to be the guys. And, Bobby was like knocking him down the power rankings. And then we all got taught, like just don't bet against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. So like now nobody does because we just got slapped too many times, right? And we just saw them do what they can do in like those big situations. When you're looking at this set of data that we have, you're reminded again after wildcard weekend every year. You're reminded again. There's 5 good quarterbacks, maybe, right? Like that's what we basically get reminded all regular season. There's maybe this guy, maybe this guy, maybe this guy, maybe this guy, and we're all playing the game. And this season I started to just bet no more often on it. Can this guy get it done? Because it's just more likely to be true, right? That they're just going to go out embarrassingly wildcard weekend, Darnold, or they're going to, maybe win one game and then regress the next season and not win any playoff games or whatever it is. There's basically 3 to 5 guys, and 2 of them are probably arguable, that you would really say like they can get it done. They can be a dude that gets it done for you. And like one of them's Joe Burrow. And like if you look at the data, just the data, nope. But like no one's gonna sit here and say Herbert over Burrow or fucking or Love over Burrow, right?
No.
So it's tough. It's tough to look at. Basically, there's one quarterback. There's one good quarterback, and that's where we are in the NFL. And every year we hope Lamar Jackson is one too, and then he doesn't show up in the playoffs. But moving on to the second game, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers that didn't show up in the playoffs this weekend. And he did, as Bobby said, banish his Steelers ghosts by stomping on them, really. And even if a couple of touchdowns in garbage time aside, really it was probably a worse beatdown performance-wise than the scoreline let on. The quarterback issues in Pittsburgh just really told over the last 6 weeks. It was kind of crazy because there was just so much more data of Russell playing how he was playing for his first 3 to 4 weeks over the course of his career. It was like, oh, it's working. It's like the Russ thing. It's working again. And then it all just started to sort of fall apart. And you saw that Arthur Smith rigidity that got him in so much trouble as a head coach. I mean, what was the drum we were banging about him as a head coach was that rigidity, right? His inability to flex and move and change. That was his biggest critique. And as an OC, you're moving in different water, right? When it comes to that stuff, you're trying to turn a boat around in a much more expansive lake, right? but still, he just couldn't seem to make adjustments. He couldn't seem to get those blocking schemes right for his running backs. He didn't want to use Warren when Warren was displaying better hole hitting and yards per carry ability. He was just like doubling down and sticking with Najee. This is stuff that we've seen him do as a head coach. And Tomlin obviously just gives the keys to the offense to his guy. That's what, that you could level that criticism at him really as an offensive coach. I think I would. And yeah, they just got figured out, man. Like they really just got figured out in the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I think we've sort of had the Tomlin conversation, and I'm willing to, of course, accept any notes on why this falls at his door, of course. But they also have a really big QB issue there. They have a really big offense issue. That offense has been bad to watch for a few years now, with the exception of a few weeks this season, if we're really being honest. And the defense, it's like, even when I don't know if they showed up, but if the best defense shows up against the best offense in the playoffs in the NFL now, I think the offense comes out on top like 9 times out of 10 if both are playing to the best of their ability. And I just think you saw like the Ravens have such an embarrassment of riches. Like they can just do whatever they want whenever they want, right? And even without Zay Flowers in there, a factor I thought was going to be much bigger. You can't. The edge rushers got really selfish going around the outside trying to get to Lamar. You got to contain him. You might not get as many sacks. You might not touch him as much, but you got to contain him. Like because he's just going to rip you up if you start going outside. And it became like obviously lopsided in the pass rush, which was really surprising to me. I thought that there was going to be a little bit more of a back and forth and battle in there. And then at the end, they just killed him with 1,000 cuts with Derrick Henry. They're like, oh, we can run him now. It's the playoffs. Just give him some moves up the middle because we've already beat these guys up. Where do you go from here if you're Pittsburgh? How bad is it?
It's pretty bad. It's bad because you're not addressing the issues that you've had for years and years and years. It's the same thing over and over again. Bad offense and pretty good defense that gets you to a point where you're almost looking like the Cowboys of the AFC. You know what I mean? That's what the Steelers look like right now, which is not good news for Leo.
It's not fair.
It's not though. They really are the Cowboys of the AFC at this point because they're not addressing
they have
issues
they have a much better structure, ownership, history.
Well, this yeah, that's
coach,
but on the field, stats, wins, losses, playoffs, like it's the same. They get there, they don't win.
Yeah, do you guys both get rid of Tomlin? Is that what you do? And do you think they're gonna?
I think Tomlin should want to leave.
He doesn't, though. He doesn't. He said he's not going to win.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want to like leave the place I've lived for that long. If I've like got a house there and shit, like that would be annoying for your kids and your wife, and at least that factor, right? But like, also, I don't know, like, what do you do if you're Pittsburgh? Like everybody's saying, like, oh, time for them to move on, like change of scenery, like, or change of personnel, banish the ghosts, whatever it is. What do you do? Like, who is the guy you bring in to like be your guy in Pittsburgh if you get rid of Mike Tomlin? Because if you're Pittsburgh, you're thinking, well, we don't really fire coaches after 1 or 2 seasons, so you're worried as a fan that if they really make the wrong decision in that specific postal code, that wrong decision might stick with them for much longer than it should, right? So I wonder, like, I don't see an obvious Steelers guy out there that is more obvious to me than Mike Tomlin. I'd say maybe Ben Johnson, but that would be a little bit because you could say like this might be the future of coaching, as Mike brought up earlier. But I don't know, man. That's I think the where do you go from there? Like when we got rid of Lovie Smith, everybody was sort of like, it's time for Lovie to move on, blah 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 blah. And it's this assumption that like your next guy is going to be as good as the guy you have now, and it's like, I don't know, like how many good coaches are there? Like not that many, honestly.
He's got to find a quarterback, man. That's I know that's
at least
so
give him a
QB, but he's got to find himself a quarterback somehow. I know,
yeah.
He famously told Chase Young, "I don't lose enough to get guys like you,"
Right.
And that's kind of beating him over the stick of his.
Could I interest you in a Kirk Cousins?
No. You wouldn't you?
Could I interest you in a
1 year?
Can I interest you in a JJ McCarthy trade?
So you think JJ McCarthy is better than
Sam Darnold?
No. No, I think that you got to try something else. Russ didn't work, and I
No,
think
I said
that my
Justin
point.
Fields. Get Russ out of there.
Oh, then Justin
Why not?
Fields. All right, well, then can I interest you in the future under Justin Fields? I mean,
Yes,
I don't know. I mean,
because
I didn't
that
see.
might. But if you keep Tomlin, that might be the thing, and just have one year where he doesn't get over 500. He might lose enough games to get somebody like the next guy, right?
But who's in it? And like Arch Manning. Like I don't. Is that who you're looking for? Like down the pipe because there's a shortage of good quarterbacks.
who's the kid from
There's a
Ohio
there's a
State that's not eligible this year, but will be next year?
Smith, the wide receiver.
No, it's the quarterback that everyone's like he would be the top quarterback in the draft right now if he could. He might not be from Ohio State.
Will Howard. Will Howard.
If that's the Ohio State quarterback, that might be right, but that's probably not the right name. But anyway, I'd also like. Do you go after Sam Darnold? I just don't get into it because he's gonna command $40 million a year.
Well, I think he lost a bit of the
That's
bag.
absurd.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think he lost the Vikings bag, right? Like I think he did. So I don't know. Like, are we sure that's the market for Sam Darnold? Because like that was a pretty bad loss of earnings this past weekend. And if you're
Russ earned $39 million this year, just $1 million from the Steelers though.
I mean, they were doing victory laps on how little the Steelers had to pay those two QBs,
Yeah.
though. You know what I mean? Like that seemed like a really good business decision for a year.
Yeah, just go all in.
Yeah, I mean, aren't we coming into his 5th-year option though? Isn't it time? Isn't it time to decide? Like you have to pick up his option, give him a year, and then I guess it's not a bad idea. He already rejected like veteran QB mentorship in Chicago, but it was Andy Dalton, so I don't know. Like maybe if you bring in somebody that he might actually respect, if you bring, but it was also like a Super Bowl winner in Big Dick Nick, so it was, and he just didn't want to talk to those guys. I kind of get why. If you were to bring in a Kirk Cousins. Like, because like I don't know what the relationship is like with Russ, and I don't know if you can just be like, yeah, Russ, you want to stick around and be the backup, because that's kind of what you're doing, and then you're putting a little bit of pressure on Fields, where you're saying like Russ is sitting there if you have like 2 bad games in a row, which I don't know if that's good in the modern NFL anymore.
An interesting position as far as this podcast goes, that your second favorite team will now be quarterbacked by Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it does.
Like, that'll be fun. That'd be so much fun to listen to.
Yeah, that'd be hard. That'd be an internal struggle for sure. That'd be like a romantic poem from the 1800s. I'd be lamenting my existence.
You would have to watch Kirk Cousins every Sunday for 18 weeks.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, you say second favorite team. It's like, like they're definitely the team I support in the AFC. It's when it's not your team, it's really hard to like trudge with a team, right? Like even though I do want them to do well for like my wife's sake, it's more of a selfish thought of like I don't want her to be in a bad mood.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's also like it doesn't mean I wasn't like just disgusted watching that fucking offense over the last 5 weeks. I mean, it was just like, good God, like they just can't do anything right.
In this game though, like statistically, again, I know that you hate when I do this, but like if you didn't watch,
but it was like the points didn't matter. The points didn't matter when they got him.
Russ had better stats than Lamar, just not running. I mean,
yeah.
If you're the
but he didn't.
If you're the Pittsburgh, right? No,
like. No, but he didn't though. Like he did, but he didn't. Like it's like you watch the game. It's just doesn't.
How do you allow
it's like when he's
300 yards rushing? How?
Like that game was over as soon as it started. Literally within 5 minutes of that game started.
Like I don't know. I mean, I think it was a credit to the Steelers that people thought they might even have an outside chance of winning that game, considering how both teams were coming in. Yeah. Thanks for that. Just like the weird like jinx part of my brain was like fucking asshole, but because it's win-win for you, you just watch the Steelers lose. Like I love those bets though. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited when those bets come up. Yeah, I mean we should give a little bit of time and credence to the Baltimore Ravens though on that note, because I really think that they did look dangerous. They're very clearly the team that if anyone is going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you could make a case for the Bills, and maybe someone will. It won't be me, but maybe somebody will when we get to that game. I don't know. I think the Ravens are the best looking offense in the AFC right now, and therefore the best looking offense in the playoffs right now. I know the Lions are amazing offensively, and I know that they can go absolutely off. I'm really concerned that the playoffs mean close games the farther you get in, because they do. And Dan Campbell may make a bad decision or three in high profile, high stakes, close games. And I don't think Harbaugh has that kind of same Rick in him. I'm betting more on the Ravens at this point based on what I saw. That might be because I rate the Steelers defense, and I do think a lot of it was just the Ravens doing really well. Because they're really hard to play against, and they have a lot of fucking weapons. Is Zay Flowers coming back? Does anyone know? What's his deal? What's his timeline?
They said that
sure.
because that's this week.
Yeah,
that's a big part of it too, right? You know, if they don't have him against a Buffalo Bills or someone along those lines, then I guess we'll see how it goes. But what did you guys make of the Ravens? Mike, did they dispel your
No.
no? Okay, well,
no.
all right.
Come on, no. I mean, again, this offense will overpower teams like like the Steelers, like the Texans. There are other teams in the AFC that made it that I think they would overpower. But at the end of the day,
what if the Steelers defense can't stop them? What defense do you think is stopping them?
Well, the Steelers should have been able to stop them, but what you mentioned earlier is that their defensive line got selfish and they went for sacks. They overcommitted. Like
they did. I think they had a bad game plan.
The Chiefs don't do that. Like and again, like Bill never did that against Lamar. Or any Russian quarterback. He would just contain them, make them make a mistake. Don't give them a running.
Well, I think they did that towards the end of the game. I think what they tried to do is they tried to say we have to make Lamar beat us in the playoffs. I think they tried to do that a little bit. I think they were like, let's stop Derrick Henry. Let's not let Derrick Henry get huge runs on us. And they did that successfully early in the game. They sort of stuffed Henry a little bit. It's tough. It's tough to build like a stop the run game plan, right? Like, and you are stopping the run against the Ravens. Like that's what you're doing one way or the other is you're conceptually stopping the run because they're this crazy ground team. Right. And yep. I would agree with you that the Chiefs actually are kind of built the way they have, what's his name? Chris Jones, a defensive tackle. I feel like they're sort of built to like maybe stuff that middle up and not leave that soft underbelly for Lamar to exploit because it's all underneath. It's all sort of check downs. It's all just running and moving the ball and making sure you're killing them like on every single play. It's fun to watch, but it's not, you just pointed out their stats. It's not rollouts. Russell Wilson rollouts, bombs down the field. Hopefully Pickens catches it. You know what I mean? Like it's not that, which can inflate your stats, right? Like we know that can do that, right? So because like one or two you come down with them, but it's not the most ideal way to play football. I don't think in 2025. So I could agree on some sense that the Chiefs would probably still beat them. I think it's probably because of Mahomes though. Like to be honest, I mean I know he hasn't 100%. Had the best statistical season, but like he's gonna just show up. Like Bobby, Ravens or Bills? Who's got, or Texans, I guess, if we're being fair. Who's got the best chance of beating the Chiefs?
The Ravens. If you could have a touchdown drive where you have 13 consecutive runs, I think you have a shot to beat the Chiefs. It really depends on if Lamar shows up, though. If Lamar shows up like he has all regular season, it's very possible they could beat the Chiefs. Very, very possible. I know Mike doesn't.
But like history would dictate that he won't. He won't. I think the Bills have the best chance to beat the Chiefs.
Who is his best statistical season though? So.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, I've never said he's a bad quarterback. You're not going to hear me say that. He's a bad postseason quarterback historically.
You're not going to hear me say that. Just add one word.
I mean, listen,
it's different. He's not though. I mean, he just had a great game.
No, he is. I catch a lot of shit for this. And Ray's always like, "Well, we always move the goalposts for Lamar, but Josh is the boy." Like Lamar is 3-4 in the playoffs. He has 1,400 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 6 picks. That's with this last game.
Who is your MVP
Josh Allen?
Regular season?
He could be MVP of every regular season. You know what? For me, it's Joe Burrow. Honestly, because that team's a 2-win team without Joe Burrow, and he almost threw it for 5,000 yards, right? Was it close?
What a fucking hipster reply!
It was pretty close.
I feel like you're wearing white jeans outside a fucking bar in LA right now. That hipster ass.
I mean, I'd rather have Joe Burrow than Lamar.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Thank you.
IRL. I'd rather have Lamar on my fantasy team. IRL. I'd rather have Joe Burrow. Bobby.
Joe Burrow.
Right.
Yeah. God, it's so disappointing he's not in the playoffs. It's so annoying.
Sucks.
I really thought they were gonna. I thought they were gonna sneak in, and I thought we were gonna be like, wow, like that. They're the immediate like fun dark horse. Like, can they figure it out? Like, can we see Mahomes and Burrow like late? You know, like would have been great. Actually, they would have played each other right away, right? They would like they'd be the Texans right now, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that would have been a lot of fun this week. Too bad. We still have games that happened already to talk about.
A shit ton.
Sorry.
Like a Springsteen show.
Yeah. Denver Broncos, Buffalo Bills, we can move through, I think, pretty quickly. Thank God that they finally put us out of all of our collective misery, except for you guys, just me and Ray, I think. Mike, I forget, where are you on the Broncos this year? Are you like happy that this is happening with Sean Payton and Bo Nix? Or
I don't like Sean Payton, just like you. I don't hate him as much as you do. I think I do think obviously he's working wonders with Bo Nix. I'm not as high on Bo Nix as Bobby was. Like Bobby just loves the way they play. I don't know. I thought it was a cool story. We'll see what happens in year 2. Like that.
Yeah, but it's a cool story. Yeah. Stop telling it though in the commentary booth, for the love of God. Like, how many fucking times have you heard a commentator this year be like, you saw him on that pro day, and Sean Payton saw him take 1.5 snaps, and he was like, that's my guy. And then they kissed, and now they're married. And it's like, I don't, it's like, dude, whatever the fuck. I might have got a few details wrong, but it's not verbatim. But come on, every color commentator in the NFL won't shut up about this story. They're ramming the narrative down my throat. I don't like that. I want to develop my own narratives. Okay, I don't want to hear from you fucking chuckleheads in the NFL commentary world, or let the narratives develop naturally. At the very least. But I mean, did it prove anything to you about the Buffalo Bills? I guess is the pertinent question. They won the game that they were supposed to win, but they did it definitively. They're trending in the right direction. They're not playing the same mistake-prone football that they were in the past. Obviously, Brady's name is getting touted around. I guess we got to call him Joe Brady every time, because if you just call him Brady, it has a different connotation now in the NFL. That's a fucking adjective instead of a noun. So, sorry, Joe Brady's name is getting touted to be a head coach for good reason. He's on the exact same page as Josh Allen. If I were him, by the way, I would do a Ben Johnson and stick it out one more year, no matter what happens. I really do think that that's like you should give that whole thing another run back if they don't make it already, like from where we are now. And then just like assess your options. I thought it was smart that Ben Johnson did that, and I think that's paying dividends. That's sort of proving itself now. But my question is, what did the Bills show you, or are you still waiting to see more? Bobby, I'll start with you on this one, because I started with Mike on the last one, and I'm a communist.
So, I mean, nothing that they didn't already show us. You know what I mean? The Bills have already shown us exactly who they are. Josh Allen, we know who
But they
he
beat
is.
your precious fucking Broncos. Your precious little baby Broncos. Another take him on that finally fucking came home to roost. Thank God. Thank fucking God. The existential crisis I was having when they threw that touchdown.
You got a couple,
because there was a moment in that game, right?
You got a couple of my average favorites out this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, the Bills are still the Bills. We know exactly who they are. Josh Allen's going to show up every week, and that's why this week is the upcoming matchup. That's the matchup that everyone should be talking about, Bills-Ravens. We're going to learn a lot more in that one.
Well, nothing we didn't already learn, I thought, when the Ravens fucking stomped them the first time. I mean, I think we'll probably know in the first 3 minutes what kind of game we're looking at, right? If it's going to be a difference. I know it was a long time ago in NFL terms. I know. And fucking captain fucking like asterisk over there. He's just ready to. No, I understand. Oh, because of Lamar. Oh, yes. No, you're right. You're right. When you're right.
The last time these two teams played each other. Last time these two teams played each other in the playoffs, Lamar laid a fucking
because I mean I am just taking victory laps on my regular season takes, and Mike is betting big in long-term bets in the take lottery,
always,
right? I mean,
always.
he is so dependent on, like, you put all your chips on Lamar Jackson shitting the bed this weekend. I mean, it's going to be good. I like that you're at least on where we at least have you locked in for either or maybe both, or maybe neither, Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. But as that sort of starts to pan out, but it is fun because this is really the sort of like the definitive payout day of the Lamar Jackson take. I think, Bobby, can we call it that? I mean, I think I need a consensus.
Yes.
Like if,
Yeah,
if Lamar
for sure.
Jackson wins, I think the take is in just absolute shreds. Like if he comes out and beats the Buffalo Bills, the take is just dying on the street, and like its mother is screaming over it.
If he has,
But
if he has a,
in the
if he has a
other
good game,
extreme, if he has a good game and they win, oh man, the cartel has come by and shot my boy. Look how they massacred my boy is going to be Mike. Just looking at his take on the morgue table, like Don Corleone and Sonny. But however, the upside, the boomer bust Mike Marcangelo take, I love it. I mean, go big or go home, man. It's like if you get double jeopardy, you got to make it a true daily double, and that's just how you got to live your life. You got to live out loud. And on the other side, if Lamar lays an egg, if he has a stinker, I think that's going to have to be the official take of this show. I think we're going to have put it on the bulletin board. I think it's going to have to be the part of our propaganda machine when people ask the official account what we think of Lamar Jackson. I think it's going to have to be, this is what we think.
Banner back there.
We'll hang a banger, and it's just a photo of Mike with a Bud Light in a like a wax penny. Sorry, a Coors Light. My mistake, of course. Completely on brand. I just haven't seen you drink one in a while, to be honest. I feel like you're drinking a lot less. We love that. Got to keep that baby batter fresh. So we it remains to be seen, Mike. I mean, how do you feel? All your eggs are in this basket.
I love it. Like this is why you do this, right? Because you can lose a shit ton of takes all year, but if you win this one, this is the big one, then you live to fight another day. That's all I'm here for. And and by the grace of whatever deity you believe in, Lamar has come through for me every single year so far in the postseason. So I expect him to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Bobby, I hate to do this to you on the back of talking about look how they massacred my boy takes. The poor Broncos. We just did that to you, and now we have to piggyback again because I kind of feel like we talked about the Packers and the Eagles already. Unless you guys have something burden you have to get off your chest about those two chuckleheads, but I'm sorry to say that the Buccaneers they crashed and burned week one, but also against I'd say another one of your favorites and like a fan favorite around the NFL in the Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels Rookie of the Year. Washington Commanders. They've been a lot of fun, I'm sure, from the neutral. I'm really getting tired of watching that Hail Mary. But I came on the show and I said, we're not going to recover from that. We're not going to recover from that. And we didn't, because how possibly could you? But they didn't dip off because of it. And, a take of mine that didn't mature was that offense was going to get figured out. And he can play. He's a baller. He's a lot of fun to watch.
The second half is under 500.
Yep. It started to happen. If you'll notice, right as the under 500 happened, the dip statistically just went down for 2 or 3 games. And then he made a change and he figured it out. Yeah. He didn't let it happen. And I think a lot of credit goes to the kid. I really do. I think a lot of credit goes to the kid. He was really impressive in that game. It was a really fun game to watch, and it was always going to be a really fun game to watch. I take nothing away from the very fun Buccaneers season, and the things that they did this year, I think helped make the NFL the product that it was. Thank you so much for all you did this year, Baker and company. Mike Evans records going against Lattimore. That whole thing was fucking great in the playoff game. The way that the Commanders offense played down the stretch, I thought was really impressive. And I don't think there's any shame in how the Bucs went out, Bob. What do you think?
Couldn't agree more. I know Baker didn't. I Lovey or not Lovey Smith. Todd Bowles might be the worst. Todd Bowles might be the worst coach left in the playoffs.
It's kind of funny that you said Lovey Smith, though.
Well, he's out. He's out.
Well, not left. Might be the worst coach in the playoffs right now, or before they got eliminated at least. No, it was a fun season for the Bucs. I stand pat on my having him in the top 10 for most of the season. I do.
I think you should. I think that's totally fair.
The Commanders just have good juju about them this year, though. There's something about that team that just has that good juju about them. And if any team was going to go into Detroit and upset the Lions, I think the Commanders have a pretty good shot of doing it.
That would be fucking wild. Wild. If that
it would be so wild. But, if they can just
it
keep
would, but it's set up
change.
Perfectly, though. It's set up perfectly with how depleted the Lions are. You're really right, Bob. That's crazy to think about. If you looked at that game 3-4 weeks ago and you were a
You
Washington
wouldn't think
Commanders
it.
fan, you'd be fucking shitting yourself, right? Like you'd be like, oh, the Lions are going to wax us. And it's not like you can really pinpoint a drop off from the Lions, right? Like at the end of the regular season, they were still playing gutsy. They were still playing good. They were still producing on the offensive side of the ball. They exposed fraudulent teams down the stretch. They did everything asked of them. But narratively, that Washington Commanders team is like hard to play against. And in a shootout, anything can happen, right? And in a shootout, a lot of times it's whose defense is just playing a little bit better. Who makes that one defensive play that just keeps the game close or like, affects where everything is down the stretch. And like we talked about with Campbell, he can take a big risk. It doesn't pay off. We saw it in last year's playoffs. It was not nigh 12 months ago. We saw that happen. So yes, it is set up for a little bit of scariness, I think. Mike, could it happen? Would you bet it?
Yeah, I'd bet it. Only because
Yeah,
if it did happen, like that's the way that like that's a
Like
great
plus
win.
250 right there, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Odds are that the Lions are going to
Yes.
wax the Commanders. But like this,
Yes.
this is a great turnaround season. Team NFC, who we lost to this year, Dave. By the way,
not yet.
picked,
Oh wait, did they
did.
announce the people?
Yeah, we. Oh
No, we still could potentially win.
Is that true?
Yeah,
You could
we're
potentially
1 point
tie.
behind.
You could.
No,
you
oh,
could
no,
potentially
sorry. Yes,
tie
we
it.
could potentially tie. You're right. It took me so long to figure out. I was like an idiot trying to figure it out. But
they had the Commanders winning 4 games this year, and they won fucking 12.
I know. It was a big turnaround. I mean, I don't really blame them for that prediction necessarily, right? I mean, like 2 seasons or last season, the Commanders had a fire sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they lost a shitload of games. They had a fire sale from their defense, and now all of a sudden they're good. It's really weird. I think Quinn did a really good job turning everything around. I think they made a really good selection at QB. I think it just fits. Like he just seems to get along so well with his guys. Like the relationship between him and like his main targets and weapons is a good one. You can just tell by the way they like sort of are and the way they like sort of chop it up and how they are with each other. It seems like the defensive captains too, the culture there seems to be turned around and shifted. It's a big part of the reason why I'm looking for a guy like that in Chicago and not necessarily an OC converted into a head coach. I mean, I'm not saying a guy like that can't pull it off, but
I'm so happy we let him go the year before we let McCarthy go. It was such a good good call to let Dan Quinn walk out the door.
I'm not sure he could. I'm not sure he could have done it in Dallas. I'm really not sure. Mike, I'm not sure.
I mean, he had that defense fucking humming.
That's what I mean.
A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I'm mad too. I wanted him in Chicago. He was by far my number 2 pick. Harbaugh was my number 1 pick. My number 2 pick was Dan Quinn, and I would have. I'm like, how do I know more than the front office? Stop that. Like, this is crazy. like both guys had good seasons. Please. That means you fucked up 2 times. But whatever. Keep Eberflus. Great job, guys. A really good fucking move. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. If the Commanders go out, they had a good season, though. You're right. Like, it's a successful season. Whatever happens now, they're playing with house money. It's a crazy season if they beat the Lions. They're having an absolutely wild season if they beat the Lions. And you're right. They just kind of have some fairy dust. They have some juice. I think we're all sort of seeing the same thing and saying the same thing. It's there. So I'm looking forward to that game too.
It could potentially be Commanders and Eagles in the NFC title game.
That's a possibility, yeah.
That's fucking wild.
It would maybe take the Commanders in that game. No, actually, I think that would be a bridge too far. I think that would be a bridge too far. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, the Eagles can lose a game. I think you saw like they were kind of trying to. Like they do that thing where they're like, should we lose though? Like maybe we should lose. What do you guys think? Like that's kind of how the Eagles approached. And I think it's just like their kind of DNA. Like they're kind of like, what if we lost though? Would that be like something that would be fun for everybody? But before we discuss that, I mean, I think the Rams have a pretty decent shot at dethroning the Eagles because I think they looked mean. Like I think they looked real good last night.
They look physical too. They look physical.
They were flying at the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to do another victory lap. No, I don't. I've been saying that I love McVay as a coach all year, and I love that he was like, I think these guys are fraudulent. Like he came into that game with the game plan that was the same as my take about the Vikings all season. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. I really feel like saying you're awesome has really paid dividends for me this year because he played them like they weren't shit. Like, that's honestly how they came out. And he played Sam Darnold like Sam Darnold wasn't shit. He was like, we're zone blitzing. Beat the zone and beat it in 2.3 seconds or less, or you're going to fucking lose. And once the pressure happened to Darnold, he folded. He became the guy I knew he was all season. The Vikings became the team I knew they were all season. He was seeing ghosts. He was hearing footsteps. It was an absolute disaster. He has so many cool skill players on that team that he has playing so well. Everybody's playing smart. Everybody's reading off the same hymn book. And I mean, honestly, I think he could go in there and outcoach Sirianni and win that game. I truly do. I mean, if you're looking for a fun bet, I think that I'd be disappointed if it didn't happen. I'm not saying it's a lock. It's not a lock by any means. The Eagles are a good team, but I could see it. You could visualize it, right? Bob, what do you think? Are you high on this LA Rams team? LA was on fire last night in more than one way.
Yeah, no, I could see it.
It's okay. I can say that. I live here. It's fine.
I could definitely see it. You look at the Rams and what they have, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and they're finally healthy. And like you said, McVay gives them a chance against any team in the NFL. And any team in the NFL, McVay gives them a chance strictly just by being the coach.
I agree. I really do. Yeah. I think he's got that team playing so good.
And I mean, they got Tyler Higbee back, who's healthy now. So like their tight ends back. Puka he's unreal. Like what a fucking find that was. Good for him. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe how good he is. And if Cooper Kupp is healthy, like he's your number 2, that's wild. And I would just say, like, anytime that Sam Darnold has to throw 40 times, you're gonna lose. And they actually did lose three of those games this year, and they had to throw 40 times. That's not a good plan. And McVay, to your credit, like he knew it. He's like, just get in his fucking face fast.
Yep. And they did, and it's so bad when it's right from the jump, right? Like when the O-line starts to crumble early, like all of us have seen this. I think me and you, Mike, more than like most over the last couple of seasons. Yep. When the O-line starts to go early, it's so scary because you're like, they're always going to get run over later in the game, right? Like like the O-line's at such a disadvantage as far as like the marathon compared to the sprint, right? So you have to sort of game plan to help them out. Like let them run block enough where they're sort of the aggressor, right? But in pass blocking, it's going to be a war of attrition for the defense, right? So you always see those really elite defenses that get to the quarterback. You all the numbers, all the Mike Marcangelo data corner, advanced analytics will back this up. All the more sacks happen later in games. That's just the way it is, right? So we've seen that year in, year out in the NFL. I mean, it is getting a little different with some of the way athletes on the edge are affecting the numbers. If you really look at the data, because like, when you have a Myles Garrett, he skews the whole thing, right? Because it's like, okay, it's not so much a war of attrition. Myles Garrett's just coming in to bust the game up, right? Like when you have those guys on the field, it's a little different, but generally speaking, and yeah, that O-line crumbled. They crumbled so fast, and that poor kid, he just looked so lost.
It wasn't like he was holding it too long. That wasn't the case.
Well, he just had no time the entire game.
Right. He was just Mac Jones.
There was a moment where he turned around on play action and he took like a 10-yard sack and he turned around and I was just picturing the angle from his eyes and it was just like, oh dude, like, there's just no way I'm not getting fucking jacked up right now. Right when I turn around and I'm like, why are you doing play action sprints backwards, dude? You need to be like doing rollouts so he can get his head around. There's been pressure like all day. It was just like such a confluence of like bad decisions on the offensive side of the ball. They just didn't look ready at all to protect him. And I do think that there is something to be said about it not 100% being Sam Darnold's fault, because that O-line did absolutely crumble from the jump. And I think there's certain guys that your O-line can crumble from the jump, like Joe Burrow in a Super Bowl. But again, we've already credentialed and discussed where we rank him on this show. That's a lot to ask of poor little Sam Darnold, right? Like that's a lot to ask of the poor kid. You said he's getting $40 million. I think after that game, he's still probably getting 30 though. Like I think we're probably
right.
We might be. I mean, he got 10 this year. Yeah, this house is nice. I don't feel that bad for him. I know that's not so bad. I think, and I think he did all right. Games. Yeah, and then became the most embarrassing 14-win team of all time in the history of the playoffs. No one's ever won 14 games and lost in the wild card round. It's never happened.
That's true. Oh, that's because usually 14-win teams are not playing in the wild card round.
That's a good point, but still, it adds to the shame, doesn't it?
Because there used to be, remember, there used to be 2 buys. It used to be 2 buys.
That's right. That's right. I'm always confused by that, actually, every year. I'm always like, who got the other buy?
2010 New England Patriots won 14 games and got their asses beat by the Jets in their first game.
Right. And then there was that weird year that you guys went 1-11 and you got beat out by the 8-8 Chargers, right? That happened because they won the division.
10. Oh yeah. We didn't make the playoffs.
Matt Castle was the quarterback there.
Yeah. The Matt Castle season. But you were like the playoff team that didn't make it, and the Chargers proved to be like as bad as they were. That was depressing. I felt bad for you guys that year. That was a weird seeding issue. I completely forgot what the fuck we were just talking about. What did we not talk about? What is there anything I'm forgetting? Upcoming game wise, any real? I mean, anybody think the Texans are going to beat the Chiefs? I don't. No. Unfortunately, no. I think they played better than I thought they were going to in the wild card round, and I think the defense really did look ready, and I think that's really encouraging. And I think they might be able to make a game of it. Is that fair?
It's just worth noting that the last time that the Texans played the Chiefs in the playoffs, their franchise went off a fucking cliff. So as long as that doesn't happen again, fire, yeah, we'll be fine.
It was so funny when Bobby first pointed that out. It was so early in like the wreckage. Like, it was like, dude, it wasn't that long ago that they were playing the Chiefs in the playoffs, and they were ahead by 2 touchdowns, right? And then it was just like,
it was like 20. It was more than 2 touchdowns. It was like 24-7. Yeah.
In speaking to like NFL narratives and it being scripted, if you start to hear the commentators mention what we just talked about, I would be a little worried for the Texans that they lose, and they lose like a comeback. I'd be like a little worried. And then it's like, but Stroud had a down year, and then like things just start to happen. I mean, I think I doubt it, because I think it's pretty obvious.
As long as he doesn't go to Deshaun Watson.
Parlors. Yeah, I think the problem was Deshaun Watson, okay. not the Texans, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's something to be said for that. Obviously, it wasn't any better in Cleveland, so heebie-jeebies. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a really fun weekend, again, of football. I didn't love overall the weekend of football we just watched. There was a lot of blowouts. There was a lot of games that were, there was really one. And it was a great game. It was really exciting, and I really enjoyed watching the Rams kind of dominate. I had fun watching that, but that was just because I have favoritism in the mix. But I'm looking forward to this coming weekend of football. I think we had a good chat about the coaches. Wish me luck. I mean, I'm so worried. You have to remember, I'm 3 hours behind. So if I sleep till 8 or 9 a.m. On a day where I don't have to work, it's noon for you guys, and there's been 3 hours of head coach news, and it's like already been dissected. So I'm really scared. I'm waking up and like through the fog of my
head coach.
Well, I don't know if that would be the worst thing in the world. Thanks to you, you really talked me into that. In one sense or another.
Kirk Cousins is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, what a fucking year next year is going to be.
That would suck. That would suck. I'm going into next year with no fucking expectations. The expectations are what kill me every year. We're gonna be predicting the NFC this offseason for the prediction show, and I'm gonna predict one win for the Chicago Bears. I'm gonna be fucking adamant about it.
I'll take Chicago. You just don't do anything. Don't say a word about them.
All right. It's like a traumatic like relationship. We can't be in the same room. It's crazy. We have to shoot our scenes separately, like the fucking Game of Thrones actors. All right. That was a lot of fun. I had a really good time talking to you guys about football, what has gone and what is to come. All we can do is live here in the moment, gentlemen, and keep on listening, keep on trucking. This has been Missing the Point.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. For those of you who dream of a world
where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony. Now, for the first time, Electricast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music. Electricast.
Electricast.